let's talk about one of the most amazing brand turnarounds you'll ever hear about. We're going to get into the story of how Olay went from being a total afterthought on drugstore shelves to a global skincare giant. Seriously, it's incredible. So, back in the late 1990s, the brand wasn't even called Olay. It was Oil of Olay. And, well, it had a huge problem. It felt so old, so completely out of touch, that people had this brutal nickname for it, Oil of Old Lady. Yeah, it was basically a punchline. So that's the big question, right? How does a brand that's basically on life support not only pull through, but actually grow into a $2.5 billion leader on the world stage? The answer, my friends, is a total masterclass in strategy. Okay, so to really appreciate the comeback, you first have to understand just how deep the crisis was. Its parent company, Procter Gamble, knew skincare was a huge, super profitable market. The problem? Their biggest brand in that space was failing. And not just failing, failing badly. I mean, just look at the difference here. It was like two different worlds. You had Oil of Olay, this $4 product stuck in drugstores with a customer base that was just getting older and older. And it was trying to go up against these high-tech, super expensive department store brands that everyone saw as the best of the best. It was completely outgunned. So P&G is at this massive crossroads. Their skincare business is totally flat, and they know they have to make a huge decision, one that was going to define their future in the entire beauty industry. They basically had four paths they could take. One, just let Olay die a slow death and try to launch something new from scratch, which, could take forever. Two, they could try to buy a big name like Clinique, but that would be incredibly expensive. Three, they could maybe stretch a brand like CoverGirl into skincare, which was a huge gamble. Or, the fourth option, they could try to do the impossible and reinvent Olay. And you know what? That's exactly what they did. They took the riskiest path of all, betting the farm that they could bring this fading icon back to life. It was a massive gamble with absolutely no guarantee it would work. And it was all built on a completely new idea. And when I say reinvention, I mean a total overhaul. First off, they dropped the oil of. It was just Olay now. They shifted their target customer from women over 50 down to women in their mid-30s who were just starting to see those first signs of aging. And they didn't just talk about wrinkles anymore, they talked about these 7 signs of aging. Their goal wasn't just to compete better, it was to create a whole new category. And this is the brilliant concept they came up with. Masstige. It's a mashup of mass and prestige. The idea was genius. Take all the innovation, the quality, the fancy feeling of a department store brand and make it available right there in the drugstore. They wanted to give you the best of both worlds. Okay, so having a great idea is one thing, but actually pulling it off, that's everything. So how did Olay actually make this whole Masstige revolution happen? Well, they just nailed it across 4 key areas. They made a better product with a new special ingredient. They advertised it like a luxury brand, even getting top dermatologists to back it up. They designed this slick, elegant packaging that looked amazing. And finally, and this is my favorite part, they got the pricing just right. It turned out to be the most fascinating piece of the entire puzzle. The team at Olay knew that price sends a really powerful message about quality. So for their big launch product, Olay Total Effects, they didn't just guess a price. Oh, no. They tested it like crazy, and it led to this huge aha moment. So first, they tested it at $12.99. And at that price, yeah, the regular drugstore shoppers were interested. They were willing to pay a bit more than they usually did. But here's the problem. It didn't attract any of those department store shoppers they needed. The price was just too low to seem credible. Next up, they tried $15.99. And wow, this was a total disaster. It was what they called no man's land. It was way too expensive for the typical mass market shopper, but it still wasn't pricey enough to make the prestige buyer think it was a serious product. It literally appealed to no one. And then they tried $18.99. This was the magic number. It's kind of wild, right? By making it more expensive, way more people wanted to buy it. For the prestige shopper who was used to paying $30 or more, it signaled a high-quality product at a fantastic value. And for the mass shopper, that higher price told them this stuff must be something really, really special. It was the perfect masstige price. So the big question. Did this massive, risky, strategic gamble actually pay off? Well, the results were nothing short of spectacular. Olay went from being a joke to an absolute global powerhouse. Let me put this into perspective for you. In the late 90s, the brand was pulling in less than $800 million a year. Just a decade after the relaunch, it was a $2.5 billion brand with double-digit growth year after year. Now that is what a winning strategy looks like. And they didn't just stop there. Total Effects was just the beginning. They used that momentum to launch a whole series of even more premium, more advanced products, like Regenerist and Pro-X. Pro-X eventually sold for over $50 a bottle, a price that would have been completely unimaginable just a decade before.
So here's the key takeaway. Olay's success was not a fluke. It wasn't luck. It came from a really clear, disciplined way of thinking about strategy, a blueprint that, honestly, you can apply to almost any business challenge out there.
At its heart, the P&G model comes down to answering these 5 simple, but really powerful questions. So let's look at Olay's answers. What was their winning aspiration? To be the global leader in skincare, period. Where did they play? Not mass, not prestige, but in that brand new masstige category they created. How did they win? With amazing technology at a price that screamed value. What capabilities did they need? World-class R&D and killer marketing. And what management systems? Ones that let them test and track everything. Answering these questions with that level of clarity, that's the secret sauce. This quote from Gina Drossos, the woman who led the whole turnaround, just captures their bold vision perfectly. They didn't just want to play the game better. They wanted to change the rules of the game completely. They wanted to make the drugstore, of all places, the new home of cutting-edge skincare. And that really leaves us with one final thought. The Olay story proves that even brands that seem like they're totally done, destined for the history books, can be reinvented. So it makes you wonder, what's the oil of old lady in your industry or your company or maybe even in your own career? What's just sitting there, waiting for the right strategy to become a powerhouse all over again?